Hello, everybody. My name is Alan Biermacher, and I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Digital Drafting Systems. We're very excited to have you today for our grading optimizations and corridor modeling updates in Civil 3D 2022.1 webinar. Uh, and we have Seth Cohen here with us today, who's going to be giving us this presentation, and we're very excited to have him here. Some important announcements for everybody. All attendee lines will be muted. If you do have questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and send those through the chat box or the question and answer box. The webcast will be recorded. We do generally upload those to our YouTube pretty quickly. And otherwise, if you registered for this webinar, you will actually receive that video to your email as well. Any questions, concerns, anything like that, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 305-445-6480 or shoot us an email at info@ddscad.com. All right, and I think without further ado, we can turn it over to Seth Cohen.
All right, thanks, Alan, and welcome everybody. All right, let's just get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and if you are using Civil 3D 2022 and you've probably heard the buzz all over the place, the one of the new things that they've had for a good few months here is something called grading optimization. So before I get dive right into Civil 3D, I wanted to just kind of go over some points here that are really important to understand. First, how do you get it if you don't have it, and also what do you need before you actually can use it or utilize it. So first off, it's only in 2022. That's the first thing. And basically, the whole purpose of it is to integrate with surfaces, your existing ground surface, to create a new surface based upon grading criteria that you apply to regular AutoCAD objects. And they don't need a 3D elevation or anything. You can define elevations for specific grading objects, and it'll kind of grade those objects based upon that, but you don't have to have any elevations from the get-go. It's obviously launched within Civil 3D, but it comes as a separate installation. And what's also very useful about that, you'll see here, is when you run the tool, it actually is a completely separate application. And that way, if it crashes, which no one ever happens in Civil 3D, right? It doesn't crash Civil 3D. It just crashes grading optimization, and then you can just restart it. So, or you can end it in the task manager. So that's a really good tool. In fact, I think that's where they're headed with any kind of new additional functionalities. It's very nice to have these separate applications that way they don't mess up Civil 3D. You have to have the AEC collection to be able to get to it. Basically, if you just go to manage.autodesk.com, or if you just go to your updates, it'll tell you that it's there. You can just kind of find it that way as well. All right. So it's located in the ribbon under the Analyze tab and Grading Optimization panel. You see the 3 or 4 tools in that little panel there. We'll discuss those in detail as we get into CAD. All right. So what do you need to actually use grading optimization? So first of all, it's not magical. You have to have an existing ground surface, and that could be LiDAR, could be a surface you got at a model builder and from InfraWorks, and then basically you can use it in CAD. Just do the import the InfraWorks model if you want it in there. But you have to have a surface. It doesn't just guess where you are in the world. Okay. Boundaries for grading limits. And this includes basically any kind of grading areas. The key thing is that they are closed, not for everything, but closed as it relates to a closed kind of entity, like whether it's a curbing gutter can be a single line, it can be, but for the most part, if you have zones or your grading limitations, those have to be closed areas. You definitely want those. It'll kind of cause all kinds of things to go. It'll work, but it'll look all kind of weird. You do want to have a rough drainage area. So obviously you want to look at your existing contours and see where your high points are, your low points are, where you're going to cut, where you're going to fill, where you want that drainage to go, where's your pond going to be, that kind of stuff. You can just start with the rough area, and then you can fine tune it afterwards using grading optimization, or you can just take it to Civil 3D and start doing feature line editing. And of course, you do need some sort of master plan or conceptual design. You have to have the actual graphics. Okay, or there's obviously it's not magical. It does require that you do that. If you are familiar with SiteOps, which is a Bentley product, obviously we don't sell that. It's now called Open Road Site. It's part of MicroStation, basically, or Open Roads now. And basically, it's similar to SiteOps, but it's a little bit more granular, and it allows you to have a little more control. So I in that part, I do kind of like that, where you can actually apply specific types of grading with the grading objects palette to basically apply those actual kind of like specific things. All right. Okay, so let's just jump right into Civil 3D. That's all I am. I'm not a big PowerPoint guy, as you guys probably know. All right, so I already have. Let's talk about this project here. This is actually a real project. If we go to the geolocation tab here, and we'll just do a map hybrid, you'll see that this is somewhere near. This is basically a gas station. It's an existing one, but it's been bought out by a whole conglomerate. And this firm, they are upgrading all these gas stations. And as you can see here, they're making a nice big one. They're having all the canopies updated here, and they're doing the D's on the back here. We're gonna, demo the building, add a new building, add some parking, add truck parking all over the place here, all that good stuff, and you can see that. All right, this is near I-10, basically, in the northern part of the state. Okay, so this is an actual project. It's actually already graded, and the plans have already been submitted. And I did this manually, doing the old-fashioned way, and I say, hey, let me just try this. Let me just do grading optimization. And so what I found doing this exercise, this is basically what I've kind of my takeaway from it. Obviously you're going to do a site plan. We all do, right? You're going to lay out some stuff, but your conceptual parking, your building somewhere, your gas canopies, whatever it is, right? And then when I found that this is really, really helpful is just, and these are my drainage lines, as you can see here, is just kind of as far as an overall how I use this, this gets you about 80% there. That's what I really loved about it. Like obviously if you've ever done a grading site, if you've graded a site, you go back and forth and you kind of say, okay, we're going to raise this, lower that. Oh, now that's all messed up. Now I got to lower this, raise this, and now that messes up this grade. Well, then I got to fix this grade, and so on and so forth. What I liked about it was it actually it flagged some areas where I might have an issue. That's what I really liked about it. That was the biggest thing, because sometimes you're in the blind until you actually get a proposed site or proposed feature lines and so on in the drawing, and then you see the surface, you add labels, all this good stuff, and you say, okay, how is this tying into existing? So that's what I really liked about it was it gets you 80% and it flags kind of those areas where you now realize, okay, well, we got a problem here. How are we going to solve that? Maybe we have to put, drainage, DBIs, et cetera. And so that's what I really liked about it. And then from there, you're going to take it into Civil 3D and do that granular kind of modeling. That's the key thing. That's what I really took away from all this. So I'm going to use it for all my projects now. I really am. And then it just gets me there. And it's probably, I would say it's going to save me probably at least a day or two, depending on the size of the site, of course, of work, because it really can just kind of flag those areas out for you. All right, so I've associated grading objects for a lot of these 2D objects in CAD. And like I said, this is just nothing. I've got nothing in here. In fact, if you look at my tool space, I have an EG, that's it. I've got no feature lines, nothing going on here. But what I do have is I have defined my line work here. And again, these are all just polylines. You'll see I have associated some of them. This one is a drain line property. Notice how when you pick it, it updates, it opens up this grading properties palette here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start from the beginning. We go to Analyze, Grading Optimization, so it's right here. You have all the tools. All right, and then you have a couple of tools. First of all, Grading Objects. When you click on that, what it does is it opens up the palette. I'll go ahead and let's turn this auto hide off here, and let's just kind of bring it out here so we can kind of work with it in this space here, okay? So this is just in your tool palettes, and it just opens up a brand new palette that has all these properties here, okay? Then if you click on this one here, this is the Grading Objects browser. I'll pull this one off as well. All right, and this one shows you what grading objects are inside your drawing. And when you pick on them, you'll notice what's very nice is it will select the objects in the drawing and show you these properties for that grading property. It's a very nice interface. Like I said, what I recommend you do is take a project that's either already built or you've already done and do it. Basically take all the 2D stuff, start from scratch and see how it works and just try it out. I mean, you can't mess up if you've already done it. That's what I love about, especially with, anything new in Civil 3D, just try it on something you've already done. That's kind of your best bet. Just take an hour of lunch, whatever it is, or however you work it at your company, and basically just try it out and then just apply the zones. And it definitely takes some getting used to. In fact, it's still kind of new to me, some of the stuff here. I actually learned, doing this presentation, I learned a couple of things that will help grading and didn't work at first when you would think they should. And maybe it's something with the tool, maybe something that I'm doing. Again, it's just getting that experience of actually using the tools, okay? All right, so I just pressed escape here. Let me just turn auto hide off on this one. So again, you have all these tools here, all right? So just to show you how this works, right now, let's say this is a drainage line, all right? So this is just kind of how I want the water to flow. So you don't have to select it first. You can just basically navigate to the tool palettes and say, okay, this is a drain line. I just click the tool. Again, as I always say, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. It just says select object set as drain line. And of course, you can make multiple selection sets. The key thing I would recommend you do is organize, just like anything in CAD, organize your objects by layer, etc. One of the other things, I did see a great Autodesk University presentation. I would look it up. I can't remember who was the presenter, but what they did, they actually created a bunch of hatching, and they applied that hatching to all the objects that were closed, right? Because obviously you don't have hatch something that's linear. And then they had a legend over here on the right where they could basically isolate objects based upon that hatching. They just did a select similar, and then they could just, boom, apply that grading type. Boom, apply this grading type, etc. So it was very useful. All right, so I recommend you do that for sure. I didn't do it to mine just because I didn't have the time. So anyway, so I'm going to press enter here. And you'll notice here, there's nothing spectacular, but basically the key thing for sure with this one is, do you want to apply this as a break line? And the answer is yes with this one, okay? You can give them names. I'm not bothering, but you can if you want to. All right, I'm just going to press escape because that one's done. Now, this one here is my outside boundary. We have curb and gutter. Now, it is going past my grading limit, but it does not matter. All right, well, I'll show you the grading limits in a second, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to go there. This is my property line right here, which of course I'll show you in a second is my grading limit. You have to define a limit or it'll go out to the whole entire EG, which you don't want to do. All right, so I'm going to go over here and click on curb. So that is it's going to apply it. And of course, for my height, I want a 6-inch curve, so that's 0.5. And then for the width, if you want 6 inches here, I'll do the same thing as well. Okay. All right, so I'll just press escape here. I've got another one here, which is my dumpster pad here. I want to do the same thing. I could have done them all at the same time with the selection set, but I'll just do it here as well. And we'll just do 0.5 for this and 0.5 for this. Okay. All right, I'm just going you through some examples. I'm not going to do my entire site. That would probably bore you to death, and plus I don't have enough time within the hour to do that. One of the other things I want to show you is zones, right? So, and this is, I find these are like the 3 or 4 things I use. I use drainage inlets, curb and gutter, zones, buildings, and low points and bounding points, which I'll kind of show you those as well. Again, there's a whole bunch of other tools here that you can see. There's parking lot, you can apply that. It turns out, by the way, if you click on this, it's just a zone. The cool thing about these tools, and this is just tool palette functionality, you can right click on any one of these tools here and copy it and then paste it, and then you can define unique properties for something that is unique to your design criteria, whatever that is. That's kind of the cool part. And a lot of these here, that's all they are. They're simply just copies of a zone property with just specific criteria based upon, quote unquote, a parking lot or whatever. Okay. So if you're doing a lot of, editing of zones, you can basically make a tool that does exactly what you want to do, and then you can have that tool copied here. Okay. So this one here, this is basically my gas area. I want to kind of limit the grading that does here. So I want to define a zone. If I don't, this thing will grade, up, and if you look here, if I select this is a drain line. Well, I want this to be a zone because I want it to kind of consider this whole rectangle a boundary of some sort. And I want to lock in some grading criteria. So if I go ahead and select this, nothing's applied to it. So I'll just go ahead and pick on zone. Again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window, select object set as zone. So I'll go ahead and pick on that object. Again, this is all regular 2D AutoCAD that I'm picking. There's nothing 3D going on here, all right? So if you look here, you can use the global constraints, all right? You can give it a name. If I really wanted to call this one gas pad, we'll call it that. In this instance, I do not want to use the global constraints because you can see what they are. I don't want to do a 3-to-1 for a maximum and a 0.05. I want to go to customize, okay? So I'm going to click over here, and let's say my max slope for this is, actually, we'll first do the min, because if you do less than the min, it doesn't let you do it. So let's say my minimum here is 0.3. Okay, my maximum is 1%. I don't want to go, obviously it's a nice pad, I want it to be pretty flat, relatively flat. Then you have some additional options. Now, I'm still getting used to understanding these options. Like I said, I haven't been using it for a long time. It's still pretty new, but if you click on the information, it kind of lets you know what these options will do. Okay, requires that the triangles in the zone align themselves in a plane, yada yada yada, etc. Do you want this to be a break line? For most zones, you probably do. Is this a grading limit? The answer is, of course, no. Now, one of the things, so by default, just so you know, when you open this palette, it kind of does this, if I remember correctly, which I don't like. It should actually make it a little bigger, because I missed these options when I was first doing this, okay? And this option here, or one of the things about this option here, is this allows you to actually lock in specific criteria that you really want to control. So right now, this zone, it's set to balance and cut and fill. So it's letting, the functionality of the grading optimization will massage the whole surface to actually use these criteria. Now, this is a pad. I probably don't want that to occur. I kind of want to lock that pad in and let the grading happen outside. Because if I don't, then it's going to actually, it's going to kind of massage the whole pad. So I toggle off balance, cut, and fill, and I toggle off minimize earthwork, because I kind of want to lock it in. I do want a smooth surface. I don't want that to be, because it makes it really choppy and the contours look funny. Okay. But anyway, so I for that one there, I'm going to do that. Okay. And I believe that's what I think everything else here is pretty much done. So that's there. Let me just check this one here, and that's done, and that one's done. And I believe everything else is done. All right, so of course, this one here is a building, right? So if you pick that one, there's a building pad property. Notice how I've set my minimum maximum elevation. If you don't, it just does a default based upon your EG. But obviously, you should have some idea what your finish for elevation needs to be, right? So basically that, I just want to range it, and then whatever it comes up with, it might be 147.25, but I kind of have an idea based upon my existing ground, where my pond's going to be, all that good stuff, where that is. And of course, yes, I do have a pond. If you select the pond, if I select my pond, it's already done. You can define if it's a dry pond, a wet pond. What's the minimum storage? Of course, you would have some idea what this would be, but you would probably do kind of a pre-calc of your pond, your pre and post type stuff. You can define it with a berm if you wanted to. What's your permanent pool, right? You can define all of these different settings. What's your maximum storage depth? All that good stuff right here, and it'll do it. Now, that said, it's good as a preliminary, but of course, when I'm done, I am going to use a grading object to get a pond. That's how I'll just do it. It's just, obviously, it's just kind of one of those things, but it's good. It's a good idea to kind of have it in there, okay? All right, so once that's done, of course, you should save your file. But again, the cool thing about this is let me go ahead and just turn that auto HUD on. All right, and so right here is the optimize. So like I said before, this is its own EXE. If this crashes, it does not crash Civil 3D. Notice how I can go in here. That brings me back to Civil 3D. By Alt-Tab, it brings it back into this here, okay? And so you'll see that basically this is its own little utility. I can have this over my other monitor, which of course you can't see me going to, but I'll just bring it back here. All right, so what's also very nice, I'm going to maximize it for now, is that it's like its own, it does everything kind of in the background while you're able to view. All right, so the other thing too is it just, I'm going to hit optimize, and let me talk about the tools, because it doesn't take a while, and you can go as long as you want to, but I'll just click optimize here. All right, it's going to start doing its thing, but while it's doing its thing, I can talk about stuff because it does let you kind of work. So the way the whole zooming and dragging and panning all works, if you right click, that's like pan. So if you're familiar with InfoWorks, it's the same exact kind of interface, pretty much. If you left click, it rotates the view, orbiting, right? If you middle click, this zooms in and out, okay? Now, it does pause every now and then, like after it's doing a calculation, or massaging. And while it's doing it, you obviously want to just, just let it do its thing. Again, I found it to be pretty stable. It crashed on me once, but for the most part, it's pretty stable. One of the other really great things, and I wish the object viewer had this, which I've told Autodesk because I'm on the beta team here. But if you look at this, this is fantastic. You can exaggerate the surface while this is all modeling. All right, so you can kind of see how everything's going to kind of go initially. All right, I love that functionality. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm going to zoom in because one of the things that you want to make sure you do, and this is they added this recently, I think at 2201. Oh, by the way, I should back up. I named the webinar 2022.2. That was a typo. It should have been 2022.1. There's no .2 yet. But anyway, so as I'm looking at some of the stuff here, you'll notice that some of these things, you want to check your curb and gutter, because when you add the curb and gutter, it sometimes messes up. Like you can see here, we're above the existing ground. So as soon as you see this, you want to hit stop. All right. Now, what's great about this is that I can actually go into here and I can pick the object, and while I'm doing this, and reverse it. All right. So I'm going to do that right there because that's all messed up there. I believe this one is messed up too. Let me check here. And that one's fine. That one's working okay. But then if I look over here, I'm still getting used to the zooming and panning. You can see I'm kind of messing up just because when you're so used to CAD, to go backwards, it's obviously kind of a pain. But this one here, if I remember correctly, yep, this one's reversed. Let's reverse this one here as well. And I think this one is okay, but let me just check. So I find if I zoom out and then I zoom in, that seems to kind of work the best. So that's what you kind of want to do, is zoom out and then rotate the view as you need to. And so let's look at this one here. And I think this one, yeah, this one is too. So I'll click on this. Whoops, wrong one. And let's pan here. And we'll click on that. There we go. And we'll reverse that one. Okay. Then I'll just hit optimize again. All right, so you want to kind of check your curb and gutter initially right off the bat. And as you can see, it's already starting to flip it, right? So that's basically, that's a good sign. All right, so as you're seeing here, it's massaging the whole site. It's figuring out, and of course you can see your cut and fill quantities being calculated right here. So the first question I always get is, hey, how long do I have to let this thing go? Well, it's actually up to you. It depends on your computer. It's running locally. This does not get uploaded to the cloud, so it's not one of those cloud services that Autodesk has, okay? So basically, just let it run, and I leave this on contours like this. The cool thing is, too, while you're running this, you can click on the visualization toolbar here, all right? You'll notice that I can theme this and see what's going on. So it's kind of categorized. If you look at result, theme, topology, hydrology, that's how this is categorized, all right? So right now, this is my results. If I click on, I can see the cut and fill. That's my results, and it shows you how much you're in cut and fill with this little graph here. If I click on this one, these are my violations. Now, this looks red, and everyone's like, oh my God, I'm panicking now. The whole site is not working. First of all, if you let it go, notice how they're kind of calming down. Secondly, like I told you, it gets you 80% there. Don't worry about this red. Do not try and get this perfect. It will not. You'll be spending hours doing it here. Your best bet, get it to 80%, and then just use feature lines. And I'm going to show you kind of that workflow once we get to the kind of the end of the presentation here, okay? But if you hover over this, you will see what's going on. For instance, for that zone, I did kind of lock it tight. I said 2% max, min 0.3. But look what I'm getting. I'm getting a 2.45 with a 1.58 min. I don't care. That's fine. They're in the middle of the parking lot here. We don't have to be ADA compliant in this spot, so it's not a big deal. Now, if I'm starting to get that kind of stuff in here, then I would freak out. But look what I did for this one. So that's the sidewalk right there. My min is 1.5 to 0.3. I am getting 3.28, so I would let that grade out a little more. Or maybe I would check my zone and make it 1%, right? So you kind of just play with the numbers. Again, don't worry about the whole red all over the place. That was one of the first things I was like, oh my gosh, it's not working. And I realized I'm not going to worry about it, right? So you can just shut this off here. So we'll set that back to none. Okay. The coolest part of this functionality, which again, I know we have it in Civil 3D, but it's not fast if you want to put your arrows. This is the best right here. Click on direction vectors. You can literally see, this is the best thing ever, where things are, the way your water is going along the site, right? That's right there is like that right there is just the best. I mean, it really is probably the best part about this. It really lets you see how things are drained. Now, what I was telling you before, remember what I love about this tool is it does actually let you see what's happening with your existing. That's what I like the best. If you're good at grading, you're pretty good at saying, okay, here's my low point. I'm probably gonna have a lot of fill, but do I need a catch? Do I need a DBI? Do I need some drainage here? I don't know yet. What I loved about this was, initially when I did this site, I didn't notice kind of this area here until towards the end. And basically, as you can see, because there's existing here, it's showing me, even though I have my drainage swale kind of going in between here, and I did add one here, I was hoping to kind of pick this up. This did come up with a better solution for that. So I basically can realize, okay, maybe I just put the catch basin over here, let this thing drain. It's less cut or fill. Of course, you have to work out the numbers as far as what's cheaper. Is it cheaper to get the DBI? Is it cheaper to do the cut and fill? Depends on how many your quantities are set to, right? But this is kind of letting me know, hey, you've got a low point kind of as this ties in, maybe just put a DBI here and pipe it down to here and not worry about grading this whole thing down. That said, I could just cut this whole thing out and I'm going to just drain it anyway. But that's basically just kind of letting you know kind of how the site's kind of going, all right? If you want to see your results in a graph, you can see this convergent point here. All right, so this right here is letting you know kind of what's going on. If you hover over it, it lets you kind of know when the proximity measure is. And if you don't know what this is, and in all honesty, I don't know what a lot of this stuff is, but it's getting a graph down that says the site's getting as balanced as it possibly can, and that's kind of how it's working. Okay, but you can click the little information to let you know how much what this graph means, what your cut and fill are, your terrain smoothness, all that good stuff. Okay. All right, so again, let it run for a good 5-10 minutes. You'll start to, for me, it was when the contours really look a little smoother. That's when I really knew, okay, I'm liking what I've got here. Okay, then just hit stop. All right, you can still zoom around. Right, it actually will be a little faster because it's not actually grading. It's just letting you see it. Okay, and then what you can do is right over here. So of course the end result is what is this doing for me? So as I told you before, this drawing does not have anything in it. But then what you can do is send the optimized results to Civil 3D. Again, it's still a separate application. It's still not messing around with Civil 3D at all. So what you want to do is it's telling you what surface you're going to have, what your feature lines are, if you had any points in the file. I'll talk about that in a second. What's your surface? I want FG, I'm going to call it. What style do you want to give it? I'll just use border for now. And then I'll click finish. And it will create an actual surface. And I'm going to show you right here in my Windows Explorer. What this does is, at first, I was hoping, but it doesn't, that it would use the feature lines to make a surface. It does not do that, okay? What it does is it creates a land XML file. That XML file is not linked to the feature lines at all, okay? So don't get thrown, don't get thrown by that. It doesn't link it at all, okay? Basically, it's just creating a XML file that allows you to kind of, dynamically kind of link it back when you upgrade your surface. Again, because what's going to happen is you're going to go through iterations. Again, I wouldn't do too many, but I would just go through, a few to get it to kind of close to what you want. So, if we look over here and I go ahead and select my surface, this is a combined surface. All right. I didn't show you the options, but you can make just a proposed surface, right? So if I take this into 3D, you'll see it is kind of showing me, I've got my curb and gutter here, I've got the building that way, all that good stuff. I've got some highs and lows. You can't really see it here. So what I like to do, let me go back to here. So this is the completed first run as well. All right. And so what I like to do, again, this is just kind of Civil 3D here. I go over here and I always add slope labels. I just have my kind of one labels here. I add them all over the place. All right, so I can kind of see how things are grading. All right, so I'll put one here, put one here, put one here, here, etc. And of course, if you want to use the copy command, you can use the copy command, however you want to do it. But that's kind of how I do stuff, just so I can kind of see how things are grading and how things are flowing. All right. Again, it takes 2 seconds, and I recommend you do this because once you're done once, right, then basically, of course, if you change your surface, it will update automatically. Right, that's the key thing that we're doing here. All right, that's good enough. You get the idea, right? All right, so I'm looking here, and I can kind of see how the surface is going. Now, first thing I'm going to look at is this right here. So I just tried. I did add a zone here for Oh, that should be popping up. I must have done it with this drawing. But anyway, I did add a zone here, and actually I added a zone initially just it was flat here, or not flat, but it was just like just a parking because this is my handicap spot right here. And then what I realized is I really had to lock it down. Okay, so in my second run, all right, what I did was if I pick this zone, I really locked down. All right, so my max slope is 0.3, my minimum drainage is 0. All right, so that was the first thing that I noticed is that I wanted to do that. Okay. Secondly, if we look at my first run, as far as the water, this water is kind of going here and going here. It's doing a weird kind of thing. If I were to just drag this around, you'll see it's kind of going in here. That doesn't make any sense, right? I want it to go all the way down here. So these are my drain lines. That's what I initially did. And so what I did afterwards was I said, you know what, let me add some low points. I forgot to add some low points. I just added that drainage there. But I want to show you something else at the building, what I did. So this right here, I locked in this zone, all right, and I really locked the criteria. And of course, if you look here, I am turning all that off because I want to make sure that I don't care about balancing in that area. I want that to be locked. I also, and again, a lot of people, I've seen other presenters and other people show it, and they really lock down the ADA ramp and everything. And in all honesty, I put something here, but when it gets down to it, you're just going to grade it. You just use feature lines to grade your ramps if you get that granular. I honestly don't get that cuckoo. As long as my labels show it, it's not really that big of a deal. The contractor gets, when you even for contractors I send a surface to, I just make sure my EP is where it's supposed to be. They're supposed to grade the ramps per ADA compliance. I don't go that nuts with that cuckoo with it, right? But I did put one here. I was trying to get this to work. And so let's go ahead and look at that. So I added, and you'll notice here too what I did. I separated out these zones, right? These here, let them grade. I don't really, 4%, 1%, that's good enough for me. This is not, I don't want to go above 4.99, right? Because then of course that doesn't work. But this zone here, because it's handicap parking, I want to lock that in. All right, so I did that separately. So initially I had this whole parking area. And then what I did was I basically said, okay, you know what, let me actually separate these out and do that. One of the other things I noticed too, to show the curb and gutter, I did do a tiny little offset. You'll see here, this is a zone because it locks in from here to the building, 1.5%, 0.3. The way grading objects work is they go from the outside in. That's how it works. So obviously, I want this one to have its own locking mechanism in some sort of way, but I also wanted to show the curb and gutter, so I put the curb and gutter in there as well, just like a 0.1 offset or 0.5 offset. It was just something to basically kind of to show it to actually have the sidewalk and all that kind of stuff work. Okay, I found that it wouldn't work with just the curb and gutter. It actually then was creating all kinds of really deep slopes because there was no zone to lock in that 1.5% cross slope that we need across the sidewalk. Okay, so that's what I had to do. I had to kind of do that and lock it in that way. Okay, so that's how you have to kind of think about it. You start big and then get granular as you need to basically get the zones and the grading you want it to do. Okay, so what I did, you'll see here, I've got some already in here. I'll create one for you, while we're here. Is I actually have created some low points, right? I just created them. Now you will notice Civil 3D adds a Kogo point. Now this kind of surprised me at first. So what I did, I said, oh, I don't need that. I picked them and I deleted them. Don't do that, okay? It needs a Civil 3D point for this to work. I kind of, once I realized what was going on, I was like, oh, okay, you got to leave it alone, okay? So the issue too now, what I found after redoing this too a couple times, I can't get it back. So it still works. The surface gets created, but the point does not. I'll show you what I mean in a second here. So I want to add just as a regular AutoCAD point now, regular AutoCAD point, POI for point, okay? All right, so I'm just going to add one here, and actually let me see what I have. Do I have my? Yeah, I already froze my feature lines because that's what it does. I actually let me show that real quick because I did forget to show that. So what it's doing is it does add feature lines. Let me do a right-click select similar. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me here, but you'll see it adds regular feet. It adds the points, but then as it needs to, it adds elevation points along the feature lines for this to work. Now that said, the surface itself doesn't use those feature lines. It's just using a LinuxML file. So it's nice that it has them, but I don't know, actually don't know why it does it because it's not really necessary. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and let me do a layer P to get back to my layers, okay? And all I'm gonna do is add an AutoCAD point, just a regular AutoCAD point. Gonna snap here, that's it. I'm not doing any elevations. This is just flat 2D. Now, just as a kind of an AutoCAD tip here, usually an AutoCAD point just shows a dot and you can't see it. So the command, if you want to know how to change that, is DDP type. And then you can change the way it looks. If I want them to be a box with a, an X, now it looks like that. If I zoom out and do a regen, notice how it's view dependent. It's resolution dependent, as they call it, okay? You'll notice there again in that, whoops, DDP type, in that I can change it to size and absolute units so it doesn't zoom. That way it just stays at, whatever height I want it to be at, okay? All right, so just a regular point, and then what you do is you go to your tool palettes and define a low point. And I'll go ahead and click on that and press enter. And it's just a really simple low point. That's it. It doesn't do anything. Now, what it's supposed to do afterwards, and this is, I think, a bug I found. After I run, let me just run it because, again, optimization does take a little bit of time. No, again, you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. It's saying, what is my EG surface? Or press enter to use EG_store. That's my EG surface. I'll just press enter. All right, so let me just get this running, and then I'll talk about what might happen here. Let me just hit optimize. By the way, don't just click as soon as you see it. I found it gets kind of stuck. Give it a second to kind of wake up. When you see the hand appear above tool, then click, okay? Because it beeps on you forever. Anyway, all right, let me go. It's going to do its thing. You'll notice here that as this is doing its triangulation, those low points are all defined here. Okay, now what it's supposed to do, which I found it didn't work all the time, which is kind of odd. Let me turn my direction vectors on and let's exaggerate this a little bit here. It's supposed to use that and go all the way down to your low points, right? You can kind of see it's going down here, all right? And then this one here. But what you'll notice, sometimes it actually, I guess, and it just depends on what feature lines you have in there. And if I probably got rid of this drainage line here, we have basically, I wanted to just split this here and split that there for, different volume. But notice how it's kind of going to here and it was causing this to pop up here. Again, I'm not too concerned with it. When I get to the granular design, I'm gonna just grade it the way I want to. It gets me started. Like I said, get you 80% there, and then you'll do whatever you want. I also found a problem here. It just could not figure out kind of how to get this down here for over here. It's probably because it had some conflict with my grading limit and up here, and that's okay. I'll figure that out afterwards, okay? Like I said, let it get you 80% there and you'll be done. Now, one of the things you'll notice, because I set these zones properly, notice how this one is staying pretty flat because I told it, I don't care. I want you to be at those min maximum slopes. And I want you to do what you can. Now the ramp, I think I saw one presentation where the guy got it to work, but it took all this finagling to get it work. Like I said, I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm gonna get the, if I want to do feature lines, I have a block that has, all the linear, the objects for the ramp, the 88 ramp, and I can just set the elevations based upon my existing or my proposed surface at this location here. It doesn't bother me that I'm not getting a ramp. Okay. Again, that's the kind of stuff you have to kind of realize is that as long as it gets you 80% there, you're fine. I know I've said that 1,000 times. Anyway, all right, so that's what this is doing. You can kind of see it locking in that slope pretty much, and also locking in this one as well. If you want to see what slope it is, take it to the violations and then hover over it. It will show you it's at 3%. Oh, that's actually should not be that way. That should be less than that. I was getting, there we go. It must be some leg it's stuck on. So 1.82 and then 0 is what it's getting. So yeah, it's violating the 0.3. Like I said, I can change it afterwards if I don't get what I want. All right, I'll just set this to none. I think in the end, so basically I'm not gonna do it, but I'll hit stop and then I would send. I think I let this one run a good amount of time. Let me just close it. I'm not gonna do it because I've already done it here. In fact, if you look at this, I'll just drag this over here. Yes, if you look at this slope label, this is doing pretty darn good, right? I am way, less than what I need to be at, okay? This is 1.7, we're still below the 2%. This is just other parking, that's fine. This is all below 2%, so my cross slopes are all working. We're pretty good in that respect, okay? Now, the one thing I was telling you though, I still found this was just not, the low points for some reason were not really working the way I wanted them to. So what I found did work the best was using something called a bounded point. And again, this is just playing around with it, okay? And a lot of the stuff I was doing, I would just go over here, excuse me, and I would actually, let me just create one. All right, so I'm gonna actually go in here, and I'll just create another point. And we'll go to this endpoint here. Just again, AutoCAD point, that's all we're doing here. And then I will click on bounded point, select the AutoCAD point, and then again, you don't know what to do, look to the command line window. It says select existing ground surface. It needs to kind of figure out initially how the elevations you want this to be. So I just press enter here. All right, now what you can do, this is the cool thing about this. If you look here, you can do either a fixed elevation value, or you can toggle this off and you can define a min max. So here's how I work this in my kind of my way of thinking. So this is before I ran the optimization. What I did was I just hovered over here and I said, okay, what's my FG? My FG, let's do that again, is 140, about 142. Well, what's my FG over here? It's 143. What's it over here? It's 143.1, and what's it over here? 142. Okay, it's getting kind of close. That's why it's not working. If I go over here, 143.48. So there's a lot of stuff happening. So what I can do is I can just say, hey, you know what? I want to lock this in, and I'm going to exaggerate this so you guys can see it. I want this to be like 130. Actually, we'll go to I'll do the range. That's fine. And we'll say the min should be 138. And the max should be 140. That way it really locks in that elevation, and then I can make sure that it kind of gets to where it does the grading as I need to. So this actually locks it in. But until you do the initial grading, you don't really necessarily know, you don't know what that elevation should be, right? I mean, you could probably take a good guess, but obviously until the grading's done, you're not going to know that, okay? All right, so now I'll go ahead and click optimize. All right, and I'll just start running it here. Again, wait till you see the hand appear, then hit optimize. Now this one, hopefully I have enough time to kind of, it's 240 here. We'll see about, I still want to show you guys the targeting, obviously for corridor modeling. Let me maximize this. All right, so I'll go ahead and let's make this a little bigger here so I can see the exaggeration. And then let's turn this on and turn these on. I wish this would remember what I did last time, but you have to do this every time. It's just one of those things. All right, so as I zoom in here, let me go ahead and just rotate the view a little bit, and we'll zoom into this spot. You'll notice it's really locking that in, and that's exactly what I want, okay? Now, again, what it's supposed to do, and I'll let this one run a little bit longer. I'm not gonna get it perfect, because that's okay, I don't really care. Because I just want to show you the error. And like I said, I have an email into Autodesk, and it's probably some sort of bug or something that obviously, like I said, it's a new tool. But I'll let this run as long as I can without spending too much time on it. All right. But basically what happens is if you update your existing surface and you accidentally delete that, and I think this is why it happened on my end, because I did delete the points initially, but I did start from scratch again, hoping it would fix it, but it just didn't fix it for some reason. And you know how it is, the stuff kind of gets stuck in the AutoCAD drawing and Civil 3D just doesn't let it go kind of thing. But I'll go ahead and hit stop here. And let's go ahead and I'm gonna send the optimized result to the drawing. Notice how it knows that there's an FG, that there's an existing surface already in there, and it says, hey, let's add these points to that drawing now. And I'll click finish here. It's gonna override the XML file, the XML surface file. It also is gonna override the surface then, right? And then it's going to also override the feature lines. But what's going to happen here, hopefully it doesn't happen, but it probably will, is I'm going to get a .NET error that says, oh, hey, that point doesn't exist in the surface or doesn't exist in the file. Hopefully it doesn't do it, because what it will do is it should create a COGO point right there. And what it's doing is that the grading optimization tool, it uses that COGO point to actually create the surface. So that's what it's actually doing that in there. Yeah, there's the error. So like I said, if you do this, just try and start all over again. You will have to. It's really annoying. Like I said, it shouldn't do that. Now that said, what it should still do though, if I go in here, I believe if I right click and rebuild, it should still update the actual, okay, it did update the surface, but maybe it didn't grab that one. So like I said, I would just start over again. Just, again, it doesn't take much because these objects are again, you might want to just delete the points and just do the point part, right? And then that way you can update the surface and it should still do it, okay? All right, so those are just some options. Again, there's a whole bunch here. Like I said, if you want to actually have your own custom tool, like let's say I want to add a zone just for this one here, I can right click here and choose copy, and I'll right click here and choose paste. And I'll call this one, we'll just rename it, and we'll call it handicap parking. So handicap parking area. All right, and I'm going to right click here and go to properties, and you'll notice it exposes all the properties here. So what I can do is I can say I want this to be a brake line, grading limit off, balance, cut and fill. The answer is off. Minimize earthwork off, and we'll leave the other ones over here. I do not want to use global. I want to customize, and I'll say my max is 0.3 and my min is 0. Okay. So you can customize that. So now I don't have to worry about a handicap parking area. I can just click it, associate it to the object. I'm good to go, right? So that's a nice kind of feature there. All right, so I'm getting a little bit low on time here, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and look at my now what drawing. All right, so now you've done it, now what? Right? So here's what you're gonna do. At least this is what I would recommend you do. To each his own, however you wanna do it, it's up to you. So this surface that gets created, let me turn auto hide off here. Let me just rebuild it to make sure it's gonna, again, I don't even have to do that because I don't really care, to be honest with you. This is nice to have, okay? It's good for kind of make sure everything's kind of working, but this is what you're going to do. At least this is what I would do. So you do get all the feature lines, which is really nice. Actually, let me do a thaw all because I've got them frozen. But then what you're gonna do is you're gonna now use these feature lines to create the data, to create your actual real finish G. Now, notice how it has all these elevation points. So what I recommend you do is just go to delete elevation points. Again, when you don't know what to do, look to the command line window, specify point or all, A spacebar. You still have the elevations of the other feature lines that you want or that you need, okay? So I can go into here and do the other one over there. I'll pick this one here as while I'm in this command. All right, pick that, and then say A for all, done. Click on this one. Feature line. That one didn't have any. That's fine. Click over here for this one. A for all. Click on this one. A for all. I'm pretty sure you can't pick more than one. Yeah, you can't pick more than one. Pick on that one, A for all. So now those are all done. And now if I pick on this one here, what do I have? I only have the points that I need, and I can then see what the relationship of those are. Now, what I can also do is I'm going to actually go into here. I'm going to keep my FG. I'm going to get rid of this, or you can just turn it off. Just turn it off. Let's just turn it off for now, right? That way, I now have a empty surface. These will be question marks. That's fine. And then what I'll do is I'll select one, right-click, select similar. Again, I would obviously make sure these are all. I'm not going to go and fix them all, but you get what I'm getting at here. I'm going to go ahead and add to surfaces brake line. We'll add them to FG. And now my feature lines, I'm not going to bother with this, but I will do a 0.1. Actually, I'll just leave it on just so it speeds up because I've only got a little bit of time left here. And now I've got the actual grading that it needs to be. And now I have a little more control. So now if I want to lower this point here, right, and in fact, I think Rebuild Automatic is turned on. It is. All right, so if I were to then now use my standard feature line editing tools, let's go ahead and edit this. Yes, at 144. Let's make it 142 just for the heck of it. And now notice how my grading is starting to go down a little bit. Let's make it 141, right? You know, you can kind of see, obviously I've got to change the stuff up here. The only thing I didn't like about this, I will say, and I probably would then just use these, you notice how the curve gets deleted? That's really, I don't like that. It is what it is. You know, you can just delete this and, you know, use the curve and then add it if you wanted to, however you want to do it. Just use regular Autocad and then feature line tools to kind of, you know, regrade it the way you need to, okay? And of course, I would go into this and edit whatever it needs to be to do the other grading, okay? But that's basically how you kind of get to that part. Like I said, it gets you 80% there, and then you do the rest with just grading, okay? Again, any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. All right, I've got about 5 or 10 minutes here. Let's talk about the new targeting functionality in the corridor in Civil 3D. All right, they've upgraded this tremendously here, which is actually really awesome the way they've done it. Okay. All right, so I have a corridor model. This is another job here, real job. This is actually being constructed right now. Again, the cool thing about, you know, what's happening, at least I'm sure this happens in all over the place, but the contractor, I make them sign a disclaimer, of course, but this is a road that's going to an industrial park. It's in the middle of the woods. This guy's got about 1,400 acres. It's up in the northern part of Florida near Jacksonville. And he's got this railroad coming through here, and he just wants to, he had this road kind of through a grant, through a development grant, and then he sold the land. It's going to be, I guess, a hydroponic plant. They just, a hydroponic company, international company. They bought all 1,400 acres. They're going to distribute 600-mile radius vegetables, which is kind of cool. So anyway, so this road's being built right now. I literally gave them this model, and they uploaded. They now use it. They didn't even do any kind of. They put in their graders. They're using AMG. It's really kind of cool how that's all done. Anyway, so this is also a DOT road. So we actually obviously are tying into the DOT road. So you have all those standards you got to follow, and we have to get this permit and all that good stuff. So this the way the new functionality works is it's actually really fantastic. I absolutely, there's only one thing missing, and I'm going to mention it. And I think they're going to add it. Hopefully they better add it, because we had it in the old dialog box. The first thing is, if you go to edit targets, you should notice your cursor. Your cursor looks different than what it used to look like. The old cursor showed a crosshairs. I call that the pick a point cursor. This is the select object cursor, but it's not. You're not really selecting an object. What you're doing is this new tool allows you to pick more than one region at a time, which is fantastic. I can edit this region and just edit them together if I wanted to. So I'll just pick on this one for now, and then you can keep going. Notice how I can keep going, but I'll just press enter. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is the best feature of it, this is a non-modal dialog box. I can go into here, zoom in or out, and still not worry about it. That's like the best thing ever. That way you can actually zoom around to make sure things are what you're in the area that you want to see, what you want to see. Because sometimes you're zoomed way in, you realize, oh shoot, I got to get out. I want to see what my assembly looks like, all right, or where my assembly is, all that good stuff. So that's the first two things. The next thing is it shows you every single region here, and they added this filter system. All you do is you left click on here, and you can then navigate, toggle on everything, or toggle off everything, and then toggle on only the things that you want to see. If, let's say, I only want to deal with the left shoulder, I'll just toggle that on, click away, and now if I click here, notice how it highlights in the drawing. I can also, I always say this, when you don't know what to do, right, look to the command line window. The other thing is, when in doubt regarding the interface, right click. If you right click here, I can zoom to the subassembly in the corridor. That's really cool. Right click here, zoom to subassembly in the assembly. And what I recommend you do whenever you're doing this tool is have two viewports open. This way, one can be in the plan view, right? And then this one here, I can right click here. I just made this active down below. Right click, zoom to subassembly and assembly. And now I can see that in there. Notice how it highlights it for me, right? That's really cool. If I want to clear this filter, you click right here, you clear it. Now it's cleared. As I navigate to all the different assemblies using the down arrow, you'll notice it really showing me everything. That's awesome. You can also filter by the right or the left side. That's my favorite, because if, let's say, I'm just working on the left side here, I can left click, toggle this off, toggle left, and now click here. I'm only seeing left-sided assemblies, okay? So that part's really cool. The right clicking, the zooming, all that's great. One of the other best parts is the fact that, let's say I want to target I'm targeting a pond, I believe here. Yeah, this one here is targeting this. If I click here, that's this region here. I'll right click, I'll make this the active viewport. Right click, zoom to subassembly and corridor. That's targeting my pond top, all right? But when you click an actual target, whether it's a horizontal or vertical, right? A width target or an elevation target, you'll notice that on the bottom here, it updates. So in the past, you had this drop down, right? You could pick alignments, or like, well, this one's a elevation target. Let's pick a let's see, let me just do my left shoulder. Let's do edge target, right? So this one here can target horizontally, and it can actually target, actually this is just horizontal, okay? So if you look here with a width target, I can now navigate an actual object, an alignment, etc., or I can pick a specific layer. Here's the other really cool thing. Now, you're not going to know the name of what you want to target, but of course, I could just pick this here, right? Go into my drawing. Let's say I'll just pick this. This is a polyline, and I'll press enter. If I scroll down here, you'll notice it says scratch element 2 _ DP. If you click this button right here, this dialog box appears and it tells you it's called polyline-52. That's a unique number for that polyline. All right, so that's also kind of neat because then I can say, okay, hey, if I pick on this layer for other targeting functionality, I can just go find that layer in this, or find that object in this layer by picking that one there. So that's also very useful, okay? So let me just go ahead and toggle that off. Again, I love the non-modal, the ability to go back and forth kind of thing, okay? Then, of course, if I need to target an alignment, that's just here, and I can just pick the alignment through here, or, of course, you can just pick on this button here and then select the alignment that you want. All right, so I can pick this alignment here, press enter, and if I scroll down, that is Woodstock, EP left, whatever, okay? You get the idea. Now, the one thing that's missing, I don't like it, and or at least I have not found it, okay? Imagine you're doing intersection design. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Obviously, as you can imagine, you would have this on a totally separate window monitor. We all have more than one monitor. I have 3, so I can put this on one, and then that way I don't have to worry about it being in this big model space. Now, when you're doing intersection design, one of the biggest things you do is you target the edge of travel way, right? So this is targeting this edge of travel way right here, which is, let me grab it here. It should be an alignment, or it might be a feature line. Yeah, no, it's actually a alignment right here. So that alignment is US 90 edge travel way left. I have a profile associated with that. In the old version, I would pick the alignment first for the vertical, and then it would show me the profiles available under there. That I can't, for some reason to me, I can't find it. I think it's missing because if you pick this here, right, you think you're picking the alignment, then the profile, you'll notice it says 0 found. It's looking for a profile. Like you actually have to go to a profile view to pick it. Now, many times your edge travel way is just an offset profile that comes from the center line. You don't have an alignment, you don't have a profile to pick from. It's just underneath the alignment. It's just there, and it's dynamically linked, using offset profile functionality. So what you actually have to do, again, I'm just pointing this out. I'm not trying to be negative. You have to find it over here in the drop down. That's all. Okay, if it's a profile. Now, if it's a feature line, yes, you just pick here. You pick your feature line, and now it actually will target that feature line, okay? The other cool thing, and again, this is crucial, I can't stress this enough, when you are doing modeling, you should name everything. Name your feature lines, name your subassemblies, all that good stuff, because what you want to do is now, if you name it and you know what layer it's on, you don't even have to target it. You can actually just pick over here, and these are all the feature lines on that layer. That's really awesome. So I can actually say, oh, this is definitely EP, US 90 ETW left, pond top 166, whatever you call it. It's just a really useful tool because then you can do that, right? Of course, you can just rebuild corridor, hit apply, keep going, etc. Okay. If you do change your targeting, let's say I go back, I'll select my corridor model, go to edit targets, and let's say I want to mess with this one here. If I pick this and press enter, it says, hey, whoa, you're about to change the dialog box's settings. Do you want to apply the existing target settings, or do you want to discard them? So you could apply them in the new one or just discard them. I'll just hit discard, and then that way now it's updating them in here. And again, the same thing, if I go ahead and left click on this, you can see which one. This is my favorite thing. I mean, you actually see everything where everything's being targeted. That's just fantastic. For anyone who does corridor modeling, it's about time. That's all I'll say, all right? And so again, if you pick it here, and then in this view here, if I right click here and zoom to subassembly and assembly, I can actually kind of see everything going on. Again, that's a really just fantastic. The best thing is it's non-modal, okay? All right, I only got a couple minutes here. Let me end. The last thing I want to show you is there's this pin button right here too. You can click on that, move away. That's really useful. Hover into it, move it around, get out of your way, put it on the dialog box, and it just stays there, right? And but it's not so cumbersome that it's in your way. You can still kind of zoom around and do all that good stuff, okay? All right. Any questions?
All right. So just one here for you. Can I use these new features on other versions of Civil 3D?
Yeah, the answer is no. But not even 2021. These are all on 2022.1 actually. So if you download 2022, it's not even available there. Grading optimization is, but the corridor modeling targeting functionality is not there. So it's only available in 2022.1. So sorry.
Got it. Okay. Well, as we're approaching the top of the hour here, thank you, Seth, so much for that awesome presentation. We wanted to wish all of you at home happy holidays from the whole DDS CAD family. And again, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that with our phone number 305-445-6480, or you can email us at info@ddscad.com for your software training support needs. Okay? Thanks, Seth, and everybody have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.